in several areas, particularly in the area of how value is added to organizations. And this afternoon's talk is brought to you by Dayanand Sagar University and BITES, that is the Board for IT Education Standards here in Bengaluru. And the topic of discussion is understanding the journey of how value is created for organizations. So one of the key factors in defining success of a business is how it defines the value it creates for its customers and its value chain, and how it is able to actualize it through its offerings. The presentation will take you through the very definition and pillars of a value proposition and through a series of real-life examples which emphasize the importance to define, deliver, and actualize true value for your customers and your business. And as business school students, all of you must understand that a business cannot function or thrive or even exist unless value is created and sort of clearly enunciated, which gives you competitive advantage. And I'm sure Mr. Nandakumar will talk about many of those things. As to the person himself, Mr. Nandakumar is responsible for leading effective development of digital and marketing strategies and the implementation of those strategies globally at the Aditya Birla Group. He comes with 17 years of experience in customer experience, strategy and implementation, digitization, branding, go-to-market strategy and implementation. He comes with a global exposure of working with multinational brands like Tata Sons, Aditya Birla Group, and the American Bureau of Shipping, which is very interesting. The American Bureau of Shipping, as many of you may not know, sets standards for the shipping industry, and they are a certifying authority like the Lloyd's of London and so on and so forth. He has experience of working in multiple sectors and geographies in both the B2B and the B2C space, with an experience of leading over 30 digitization and customer experience projects. He has been involved in enhancing business impact to the most parts of the value chain. In his spare time, Anil enjoys running marathons and loves to undertake cross-country treks. He's not told us exactly whether he does it alone or with somebody, but I'm sure he enjoys himself. I can see this broad smile on his face. So Mr. Nandakumar, Anil, we hand over to you. Welcome once again to Dayanand Sagar University. And we have our full set of MBA students, which number close to about 130. We also have executive MBA students who are attending this particular discussion. So thank you very much, and over to you, please.
Professor, thank you very much, and welcome to all. I'd like to take this opportunity to first of all thank Arvind Srinivas. I've worked with him. He's been my mentor, my guru, my dearest friend. And I thank you for the opportunity. Professor, thank you. Thank you, Dayanand Sagar University, for this opportunity. This topic that I've taken, and I'll quickly share my screen so that we can get going, because I'm aware we need to spend 40 minutes on what I'm going to discuss, and then from there open it to Q&A. The topic is a relatively generic topic, but is essential for effectiveness of not just organizations but for individuals. And I felt this is a core area that perhaps we could discuss. I would have loved to have this as a discussion because I'm sure we all have different varied experiences and exposures to what is value by itself. My intention with the next 40 minutes, or rather 34 minutes now, is going to be define what a value is, how is it even created? If it's created, are you able to deliver it? If you are able to deliver it, is your customer and yourself able to extract the value you want out of that. So without any further ado, I'd like to jump to the basic question: what is value? And this is something that I've dealt with many gurus in the industry, and then all of us predominantly land up getting into this basic definition of of value, which is the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. I would only value you, or you would only value me. Example, this presentation or this discussion is only valuable if I'm able to bring something useful to you. Otherwise, this is of no value. I'm not creating any value in the next 40 minutes. So, but all of this then eventually leads down to a core part, which is, if you value something, you're ideally going to benefit from it. So ideally, all of this summarizes into what we call a value proposition. So what is that value proposition that I bring to you? What is the value proposition that you bring to your customer? What is the value proposition that you bring to your family, your friends? Value proposition can be defined at any level to any individual. It's the way you look at it. But then a value proposition generally gets defined or broken down into two parts. One is a functional, that's a tangible benefit, and the other one is an emotional benefit. Now, taking a very simple example, a functional benefit of a friend is a friend in need is a friend indeed, right? I mean, if I'm in trouble, he's going to be there for help. That's my functional benefit. He's got an emotional benefit to it. What is the emotional benefit? Hey, I trust him. Hey, I'm safe. I feel taken care of. So the value proposition of a friend is somebody who actually is there for you in your hard times and good times, and someone who is able to give you the trust that, hey, he is available for you when required. I've just defined the value proposition of a friend. And that can be defined for anything that you actually deliver. So I've been talking of value. So what is value creation? A lot of English, but reality is very simple. It boils down to a very simple thing. A value is what is sold to a customer. And again, team, when I say a customer throughout this presentation, I would want us to look at it as something being delivered to another entity. It does not have to be I selling a car, or I selling a chemical, or I selling steel. No, it can be your friend is your customer, your parents are your customer, your girlfriend's your customer, your spouse is your customer. So try to put that under that garb. Although we will be talking of the business side of it more, but my intention of this discussion is also to bring the whole sense of value and value creation as an individual, because that will also make us extremely effective individuals. So value is that is sold to a customer. In turn, the business or the individual earns a profit for what it has created, and customers have a want or a need fulfilled. Now, there are specifically value and profit in a specific color tone and sold to a customer and want or need fulfilled connected. The reason here is, hey, I can keep feeling that I'm giving you a value, but then if I am not delivering what you want, in this case, the business earns a profit. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. I feel I'm doing brilliant, but it's not really what my customer wants. Example, a friend might not want you around all the time, right? He might just want you at an intellectual capacity, but you're just sticking to him, you're just leeching. That's not value that the customer is seeking, but you feel you're creating value, but you're not going to get anything out of it because you've not understood the real need. And that is the crux that I want to move towards, the real need part. Now, levers of value creation. So we talked of how a value could be created, which is linked to a certain need. But then I can derive value. Now I'm slowly moving towards the business context and slowly leaving that personal angle, but all of this still applies to personal. So I would want you to absorb it from a business angle and a personal angle as we're going through. The general levers for value are again broken down into functional and emotional value, wherein what could functional improvement of value be? Improvement of efficiency, reduction in cost, reduction in time, higher profitability, premiumization. I'm going to charge $10 more than perhaps what I'm charging today, because I believe the customer who is my customer is actually gaining $30 more, or he's able to premiumize. So if he's able to premiumize, I should be able to charge a certain premium for my product, my offering, my service, which is called premiumization. Now, many a times, as we are delivering a functional value, this could be replicated by my competition. And I'll take you through a beautiful example that I am sort of living. I've recently just launched a sustainable carbonaceous material. A long story short, it's a sustainable carbon that allows you to reduce your carbon footprint and also improve your functional benefits in a tire, which helps you, with much larger life of a tire. Now, this is a product that we've launched as part of Birla Carbon globally, and I'll take you through that journey. But the intangible or the emotional value is something that is extremely high on stickiness, and most of us marketeers sort of try to build this into our products, so that it's not very easily replicable. So let me explain what I'm trying to say. A sense of pride, and an example that comes is perhaps if you're working as a vendor or a partner to Tata's, that brings you a sense of pride. Even an employee of a Tata Group company has a sense of pride. Hey, I work for the Tatas, especially in the Indian subcontinent, or globally, not as much, but Indian for sure. It gives you a sense of safety. The product that I'm using is going to last me the distance. It's going to give me a sense of safety, that it will not break down when I need it. I feel safe, and it's also trusted. So safety and trust sometimes go hand in hand. There's also, again, trust can also be brought into the fact that, hey, I trust this company to defend me when I need it the most. The appliance will not break down when you want it the most. Hitachi comes to mind. A brand like Toyota comes to mind when you're talking of automotive. A sense of belonging. Now, this is something that most of the premium companies or premium brands are trying to do. An iPhone comes, or an Apple comes to mind, where you really don't know what, functionality wise. There are many comparatives, in the market. But when you actually go to an iPhone user, and I know quite a few, I myself am not one, but when you go to an iPhone user, you'll say, oh, you know what, he will defend the product to the core, because there's a sense of belonging here. I have an iPhone. That belonging is an extremely strong one, that to the brand. And admiration and repute. And again, the same example I just took. Hey, if I own a Ferrari, whoa, I've reached, or a Mercedes or Jaguar, I would love to say, but yeah, it's got its own connotations. Now, the example that I want to take, and that's a really fuzzy one, or in the business terms, is because what we've done, there was a product which is extremely high on carbon footprint. That's carbon. Carbon, if you have to manufacture carbon, it's an extremely carbon guzzling problem, right? But imagine we've actually built a sustainable solution in developing carbon or carbon black, which is actually carbon negative. Now, why I'm bringing this here is on the case of value creation. Now, there were multiple facets to this, but we understood that our customers today, our value chain is under pressure to actually deliver more sustainable solutions, because there's pressure from the government, there's pressure from various institutions and consumers to make sure that we are having more and more sustainable solutions. And there's no easy way. You cannot replicate carbon completely, but then you can actually innovate to actually make sure that you can actually be a net zero consumer of carbon footprint in the value chain, and that's what we've done. So what does this bring to you as a value? Is it first of all starts with a sense of trust, a sense of safety, that these are good people to work with. I'm not going to the functional benefit as yet. There are multiple functional benefits. But what I'm trying to bring a hook to this discussion is we've actually hooked on to this product as a value, in an emotional value, saying these are good people, they're sustainable, saving the planet, links to a sense of pride. And hey, by the way, this also helps you with higher profitability, and it is a premium product. So automatically the emotional hook and the functional hook comes in, which helps derive value for my customer who is looking for a sustainable solution. But then it also helps me derive value for premiumization of taking into the product into a market that I can earn $2 more. Now you say, okay, all of this is beautiful, but how do you even get to understand how to create value? Okay, brilliant. So whenever we generally start, and all the gurus of the industry would agree, and most of you must already be aware of this. You always start the process of defining your value, and that's when eventually then you'll end up creating a value proposition is based on these 5 voices. You always go back, and I quote Mr. Prakash Nedangari. He used to be the head of customer centricity for ABG, and he's a superb marketeer, right? Extremely well known in the industry. And he said, anytime you have a doubt, Anil, you go to the customer, you go back to the value chain, and then you ask. And when you ask, you get some answers. So the first question, the first voice that you always go back to is the voice of a customer. So it might be, if you're in a B2B space, for example, the example I gave you of carbon, it's a B2B space. So you first go to your customer, and then your customer's customer, and then eventually the consumer. So you go through the entire value chain. And that's the voice of the value chain, which is the next one, where you understand what is his need, what is his pain, what is he really worried about, what are his apprehensions, right? What is his love? What is he really looking forward to when he actually looks to you, from a functional point, from an emotional point? And then once you gather some bits of that information from the voice of the customer and the value chain, then you actually start looking outside. What is that outside? You first look into the industry, so the voice of the industry. Now, is there a technology change coming around this particular voice that you're hearing? Is there any form of value chain disruption that is coming? Is there, again, macroeconomic analysis? And I'm sure most of you are aware of the whole pestle thing that we do. You could get into that, but then you get into the voice. You actually go to the industry, speak to people. Secondary research always, it does something, but ideally just go, speak, understand what's happening. Once you have all of this in place, then you actually come to the point of differentiation. Is this something that really would add value? What is my competition doing? Because I'm sure you've got competition. So you understand the competition, and when all of this finishes, then you actually then come back again to your own self to understand the voice of the business. Say, okay, this is my analysis, this is the competition, this is what the customer wants, this is what the value chain wants. And by the way, business, let's put to perspective. Is this in alignment to what I'm looking for? And what I'm actually then distilling to is aligning to the objective of the organization. Now, many of you might say, hey, shouldn't I have ideally started with the objective of the organization? Answer is no. Ideally do not, because you would bias them. What you would do if you actually start with the voice of the business first is you get into a bias of an internal bias, saying my business needs this, so I'm only going to listen to these and these voices. You're not going to be holistic in capturing all the voice and then distilling it to then actually marrying it to what the voice of the business is. So these are the various levers. By the way, I can take days and days of discussions on just these 5 topics, extremely dear, because these are the tools that actually make you derive what a true value proposition is. So you heard, and then eventually you built a value proposition which you feel is really good, and okay, fine. Now you launch it. But then a value proposition in many terms is actually a promise, right? You have a value proposition which says, I will deliver food to you in 30 minutes because people want food on time, hot food on time, right? You promise I'll be a knowledge partner because there is a dearth of global knowledge to actually make me employable. Okay? I say I am best in quality because anything that I deliver to you will help you build the best quality products. I'll be the lowest price because I'll give you the basic quality level of the product in the lowest price possible, right? I'll be the most innovative. Now you come to me, you will get the best technology that perhaps is not there in the industry. I won't be a Chinese replica or most trusted. You come to me, you will never be let down. Now these are all, in some case or the others, linked to the promise, which is linked to a value proposition, which would be a benefit of a functional or an emotional nature. Now, the bigger question that I'm going to place to you is, okay, if you have it, do you deliver it? Now, that's one of the biggest pains that we as marketeers and business students always come across, where we say, I'm not really sure. I mean, I thought I wanted to deliver this, but then my internal processes, my capabilities, and my market perhaps is not aligned enough for me to actually deliver this. So I feel, or you feel, that you create value for your customer because he wanted pizza delivered in 30 minutes and I'm delivering it. But okay, so I'm delivering it. So I'm creating value for my customer. But okay, even if you've created value for your customer, did you create value for yourself? Because hey, you're not running a charity, are you? Eventually you want a certain market share, you want a certain premium, you want a certain top line, bottom line, whatever it is. So are you really creating value for yourself? And that is where the most difficult part that I believe I'm still struggling with it is of value extraction. That I've created a value, I've delivered a certain value, but I really am not able to extract the kind of value that I felt I'm going to get out of it. So what am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say here is, and I'm linking back to the basic here of the organization. So whenever you create a value proposition and you take it to market, the go-to market has to have a very clear objective. And many a times we slip on that, where we say, I want to launch this product, which will give 30%, 30-minute delivery of a pizza. Okay, which will lead to ideally a higher revenue. Okay, but no, my objective was to actually create a premium. Oh, this value proposition doesn't align to a premiumization strategy at all. Oh, based on this value proposition, I want my customers to increase in different geographies. Oh, but my customer persona in different geographies don't need this 30-minute delivery. Some are okay with 45. Some are saying chill, as long as I get my food and it's warm, I'm okay. 30 minutes really doesn't make a difference. Why? Because the 30-minute value proposition is actually, when you think about it, is a metro concept, where we say, I want it fast food, 30 minutes, quickly, right? That's actually a metro concept. When you go to a tier 2, tier 3 city, it's like, what food I get, that's good enough. I really don't need it in 30 minutes. Because those constraints of a metro are not there in a tier 2, tier 3. I mean, it's not as much traffic, so automatically the 30-minute thing doesn't come. What I'm trying to say is, your objective has to be clear. So one of the pitfalls of many an organization, and I've been in this pitfall a few times, more than a few times in my life, is there is no lack of basic clarity on the objective. What is the real objective that I'm trying to achieve for my organization? Now, we get really excited in creating value for the customer. Okay, for once, let me say, okay, I've delivered value for my customer. Whoa, that doesn't happen all the time, but if you did, brilliant. But did you achieve your value extraction or your objective? And that's exactly where you need to see clarity and get that alignment right up front. So now I'm going into the deeper side of the ocean, where I say, okay, I've delivered certain value, and but came back, circled back to the whole part of, okay, what was that value I was supposed to get? Or am I really getting it? Now I've highlighted some of the objectives that some of us look for. They could. This is again not sacrosanct. There, I can list down 50 more, but some of the bigger ones are premiumization, higher volume, geography expansion, higher brand recognition, higher revenues, and any other objectives that you might think of. Now, I want to take us through, and I will not take the name of this brand. I'm sure when I explain the concept, many of us will understand this. There was an American brand, American automotive brand, who launched in India, where the passenger vehicle market had opened up, and we had only a few entrants. And at that point, this brand entered the market with the American muscle, right? Studies said, and then they did their groundwork. It's a global brand, so they came in and they said, all right, we know the segment that we want to focus on. We understand what they're looking for. This is a market, hopefully we understand that too. And now I am going to deliver the product that I feel that the customer wants. They even delivered it to a certain cohort, certain amount of acceptance. Obviously, they did change their strategies, their go-to-market. They even changed their product to a certain level, but eventually, the model that they brought to the industry never aligned to the objective that they wanted, which was to be the number one SUV, supplier, or supplier is the wrong word. I mean, be the number one sought after SUV manufacturer in India. Now, it's extremely contentious. Well, were SUVs really sought after? Did a common Indian, what was that cohort, or what was that target audience that was really looking for? What is that investment that they're putting in versus the revenue that they're looking for? Because they were looking at almost a 4x growth in a span of 5 years. Forget about a 4x growth. They actually had to shut shops and actually leave India. So the point that I'm trying to get to is, and this is one place we all struggle. I am struggling with a few brands in the group myself, wherein we're saying, hey, we deliver technical excellence, we deliver superior product, we deliver OTIFs of over 95%, where the industry is below 60, whatever. But I am not able to. I want a premium. I want a market expansion. I want my share of wallet to go up. It doesn't happen. Why does it not happen? Is because one, you need to first derive, is there even a value to be extracted there? That's first question. If there is no value to be extracted there, if your competition is also doing the same thing, if the industry is not warmed up, not ready for what you're going to deliver, you will not be able to extract that value. You can pump millions and millions and billions of dollars into it, but you'll not be able to extract that value you're looking for, because might be the industry is not ready, might be the customer is not ready, might be the customer cohort that you're actually focusing on doesn't exist. You feel it exists, but that's exactly where you have to. What we talk in marketing is product testing, customer testing, and a real-time agile product testing mechanism has to be constantly brought in, and a re-evaluation of the value creation for the customer, value creation for the organization. Both have to be constantly checked to actually re-evaluate, is this product even fitting into the strategy that I want? And if it does not, how do I, in agile, in real time, go through it, change it, update it, and move forward? Now, this is a very painful exercise, but based on the little experience that I've had and a lot of failures, a few successes, let me put it that way, but yeah, a hell of a lot of failures. I felt I could just put some of these pitfalls in value actualization, and some business gurus call it value innovation as well. So I thought I'll put that /innovation bit as well. So first things first, in the example that I shared with you, the first thing is my, who's my core target audience and what are their needs? That's extremely important. I'll also, not just the automotive example, I'll also go back to the sustainable carbonaceous material that we've just launched, and it's been a super success. One of the biggest strengths on that was our core understanding of the value chain and the pains that they have. You have to learn that. You have to understand it. You cannot be, hey, mere ko malum hai market. I know the market. I've worked in this industry for donkey's years. I know how the customer wants. Don't worry about it. Or, just this whole cocky attitude so-called innovators have is, hey, Apple does not really go to the customer because the customer doesn't know what they want. Well, let me be very honest in saying I know a few innovators in the Apple world, and they do listen to the customers. It's just that what they do is they preempt what would be the next, the innovation cycle, the next breakthrough, and they innovate around that. But they also listen to their target audience. Without that, they would not be now looking at bringing, low cost, iPhones and whatever they are. So listening to the core target audience and creating that is extremely important. Did you deliver what your customer was seeking? Now, this is a huge pitfall again. If you did not understand your core target audience, you might feel you've delivered something and hey, customer is getting immense value out of it. Really? Did you go speak to the customer? Did you really understand that he's getting the value he was looking for? Or you've created a certain value that he didn't understand, but you have to extrapolate and show him, hey, you know what, your efficiency has gone up by 20%. You didn't realize that. I'm explaining it to you. Or, hey, you can actually premiumize it. Your competition is selling it for $10. Your product does 10x now. So you can actually sell it for 20 and there would be customers for that. Are you delivering what the customer was seeking? Only if you deliver what your customer was seeking, can then you actually go and actually talk of, hey, what more can you do for me? Customer, can I charge you 1 rupee or $1 extra? The third bit is, if you did, was it differentiated? Now, this was another huge pain that I've come across is the markets and the value chains constantly moving. I'm not the only guy manufacturing or serving or offering a certain service. There are multiple people doing it globally all the time. Now, it's possible that I felt, wow, I've built such a great product. But by the time you delivered it, the competition already was there, or perhaps the competition was already there. And then value erosion happens. I'm sorry, I don't want to use too many jargons, but what I'm trying to say is you felt you had, say, $100,000 or $100 million worth value you could create for your customer. But by the time you got to the market, there was competition that $100 million turned to be $20 million because the pie got shared. Now, so your point of differentiation is extremely important, and for you to actually articulate that. Articulation and positioning of it is also extremely important. But again, that could be a topic that we could discuss perhaps at a later date. What is your expected value creation for the customer and the organization? Did you define that clearly? What is your objective? I've touched upon this significantly long enough. I don't think I want to do that. This is extremely important. You delivered a certain value. Did it meet the objective that you were trying to do? Were you too late to delivering the value of the customer, what he was looking for? Again, same point. Did the competition beat you to it? It's happened a few times. Is the industry rapidly changing? Now, in industries like, say, brick and mortar, so the steel, cement, and a few others, we often come across the point that, hey, the industry doesn't move as fast. It's got a very long industry life cycle. Could be, but then there are huge disruptors in the industry day in, day out. And if you don't listen to them, it's very easy for you to miss the bus. Saying that in, say, the technology industry is the absolute opposite. I mean, every second day there's a new technology coming in which replaces the previous one. So you need to be very careful of that, cognizant of that. And the last one, which also happens quite a few of the times, and this was the main reason why the automotive company I was talking about didn't achieve what they wanted to because they were way too early. The customer did not realize the need, and they were way too early in the industry with the value prop they were bringing in, because of which there was no real people who actually could afford or buy that product. And the cohort that was there who did was not big enough for them to actually realize the value. So unfortunate, but that is how it is. That is what value creation is all about. So I want to quickly summarize, and I know I just have 4 minutes to go, so I think that should be good. So how do we summarize this? We need to understand the core target audience. It cannot be every customer, right? So you need to understand who your true target audience is and what is that they're going to be deriving out of you. And I would want to take this again back to the personal example. Hey, I can't be a friend to everybody, right? I mean, there might be some persona that I am most prone to. So who is that? Need to understand that. Understand their needs and their pains. Customer journey mapping helps here. I am not again trying to get into the depths of CJM because that's a subject in itself. But to understand the pains and gains of that customer in that particular target audience becomes a very critical part. Set a clear objective. I've dwelled on this multiple times because I think I've been burnt so many times on this. You'll end up deriving, you feel you're deriving a certain value, but you miss the target because the organization was actually looking for something else. Create a compelling value proposition that touches the right functional and emotional benefit. That's extremely important. Many times, and this happens at two phases. Many times I have a product, it's just that I have not defined the strength of my value proposition, and hence I'm not even able to position it. I might understand certain functional benefits, but I really don't understand that emotional trigger that I can utilize that can actually leverage in actually creating value for me. The other side of this is I don't create a value proposition at all. I just say, hey, this is a product, you want to buy it, don't want it, God bless you. That happens especially in the commodity industry. And we leave so much value on the table that we could actually have gathered. Deliver the value prop and communicate. I wish I could make that communicate bit really large and fun. Because even if I deliver a value prop, if I don't tell you, if I don't communicate to you, say the example in a personal life comes to a spouse. Hey, you might be really good friend, really compassionate, all of that. But then you also need to, sometimes communicate that, saying that, hey, we're doing really good, we have fun, I'm trusted, I trust you. So the communication part is extremely important. And even in the business front, you need to communicate with your value chain on what you're trying to position. Because you might be delivering something, but you just get taken for granted. And then you're not able to extract that value that we're talking about. And that's the last bit that I'm going to connect on. That is, extract the value you desire, highlighting the gains the customer receives from you. This is a little bit of tom-tomming that we call in the industry that is required. That's where the whole branding and positioning bit comes into play. And that's extremely important when you're actually taking a new product or a product extension into market. Saying that, I hope I wasn't too dry, too boring, and I hope I was able to generate some value to the audience. That's that from my end, team. I have finished with a minute to spare.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anil, for that succinct and very insightful discussion. And I'm sure all our students benefited enormously. So there are a few questions which I have gathered. And can we go with the Q&A? Anil, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So, yeah. So question one is, digital transformation is about changing where value is created and how your business model is structured. And more value creation comes from outside the firm and not inside, and from external partners rather than internal employees. Would you agree with this? And this has come from one of our professors here in the School of Commerce and Management Studies.
It's a very interesting one. It depends on the value chain, to be honest. So let's take an example. Could you repeat the ladder? So value creation is coming more from an outside
They say
perspective.
value creation now is being created by, tweaking the external environment, say outsourcing and so on and so forth,
I
rather
think.
than just from the internal employee.
Okay, so let's take a value chain of let's take B2B. In B2B, let's take cement. Okay, in cement, if I do not generate the manufacture the cement in the CTQ CTP measures to my needs of my customer and not deliver it, I can't outsource it, right? So the value has to be created by me. I have to position it, and the customer will derive that. But saying that, if I go into I think what you're predominantly going towards is the digital part, which is relative to IT, where you're actually connecting various vendor ecosystems there. There, I would, although not completely agree with you, because at the end of the day, you know what your customer wants. Even if you have a vendor, he actually works with you as part of your ecosystem. And in my experience working with the Tata Group, I was part of Tata Industries, and I'm an IT guy by profession to start with, so I understand that part. Even if I actually outsource it, I still need to deliver value to my customer what he was seeking. That could be a new technology, it could be just a delivery of a service, whatever it is. So although I don't disagree that yes, external ecosystems are helping in my value creation, the responsibility of value creation still lies with you, sir. It cannot go out of your hand. And if you do, you're losing big time, because that vendor ecosystem then will connect, and you'll actually be taken out of the third into the four anyway. So forget about value; you will not even exist.
Yeah, great. And just a follow-up question, and from me. Um, Somehow I feel that in India, many people do not leverage the power of outsourcing. They seem to hang on to everything. And would you agree to that? Agree with that and say that that could be a problem, and you need to intelligently outsource?
So we've got Arvind amongst us. He's a super guru at this. So Arvind, with your permission, I'm going to answer this. So there are two models. Okay, there are three models that I've generally seen. One is the completely sourced model, wherein you have all your resources and the point you said. And generally that happens where the customer value chain is extremely sensitive to quality delivery, time delivery, and the CTP, CTQ measures that's critical to process and critical to quality measures are extremely stringent, and you really do not find that quality of vendors to actually outsource it. The second model is a hybrid model, wherein you hold on to the critical processes which are extremely important to delivery, but the peripheral, might be the testing. Okay, let me get into specifics. Testing, code replication, maintenance, all of that you actually outsource. So these are not critical to the core business value, but you're still outsourcing that, because that you don't really need to hold on to your to it. The third one is a complete outsource model. Now the complete outsource model will only work, and I'm going purely by experience. I'd love to hear input from others, but that would only work in a case where there is extreme amount of automation and very less amount of human intellect required to succeed. And then in such a case, a complete automation model, the BPO model is a very classic example, right? Everything is sort of automated and a process is set for all of it. If you breach that, then you have a different case altogether, which a different set of a different universe has to solve it. So there again, it's horses for courses. I would not say which one works best, but this I do agree. And in my experience, I've actually created various vendor ecosystems with various qualities to make sure that I'm deriving maximum value for my customer and for myself. So, sorry, long story short, I think there is no right and wrong. It's about what value you're going to create and how much you want to make out of it.
Yeah, and hence I said outsourcing strategically or outsourcing intelligently.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, thank you. So the next question is until the mid, say about 2010s or there and thereabouts, few investors paid attention to environmental, social, and governance or ESG data. Information about companies' carbon footprint, labor policies, board makeup, and so forth. And let me sort of, as a quick example, two of the premier or airline industries, that is Lufthansa and British Air, both are in the green accounting wise. But if they apply ESG data, they slip into the red. So do you think these are substantively now adding value to the value chain, or we have still many years to go with an Indian context, of course?
Yeah, in fact, I was about to start with globally, this is it's a different paradigm altogether because I mean, with the launch of Continua, and that's the brand that we launched, which is a negative carbon footprint, carbon black, which is unheard of because it's carbon black. How can it be negative? But saying that in an Indian context, I don't think we've even started. I think the rules of the game are not even existent today, and we're far away from basics. And I think this also links back to our own culture. All due respect, when we don't even respect another human being, how will we respect nature? Unfortunately, we are in an exploitation mode. We're extremely gung-ho about growth and all of that, which is very important. But then to do it in a sustainable way, how do you do it? Is something that we all have to think about, and that starts with the basic culture of caring for each other first, then caring for the nature, and then automatically it'll come through. But according to me, we have not even started that journey in ESG at all in India. Far away from it.
Yeah. Okay. And but you think it will sort of seep in slowly and then catch up, and hopefully in the next couple of decades we might sort of take cognizance of some of these things?
I have a very strong feeling, and I was having a discussion with the head of sustainability for the EU. There's an association called EcoVadis which certifies, and it's also core part of how the EU actually looks at category 2 and 3 emissions. And then and this is not my input, it's their input. They said there'll come a time where it's not even an option. We would have tipped the threshold so bad that it'll come down to our existence, right? So automatically you'll have to quickly change gears. Many of us will perish in that process, but you'll have to change gears and you will have to realign. Again, Mother Nature has its own ways of realigning. Let's hope that doesn't come to that. But yeah, I mean, a decade or two, I think would be way too late for us to do it. But yeah, as Indians, I think it might take us that as an attitude, yes. But I believe that'll be way too late.
Very nice. Okay, so next question is, where do you see value being created in terms of collaboration between man and machine? And you know where I'm coming from in terms of artificial intelligence and so on and so forth, and say autonomous driven cars and self-driven cars and things like that. And say when I was commanding ships, self-driven ships was, in the realms of fantasy, but today we seem to be
reality.
We seem to be talking about it and so on and so forth. So high degrees of automation. So do you think substantive value will be created in this collaboration between man and machine in the years going ahead?
I'm already seeing that getting created, so I won't even see years ahead. I see huge amount of value getting created in spaces of manufacturing, in the space of logistics, in the space of where else have I seen it happen? In automation. These are a few sectors that I see real time. Let me give you examples. I had visited the Hyderabad warehouse for Amazon, which is zero man, right? And then it runs at almost 60% higher efficiency than any warehouse in the world. So it's one of the most efficient. What this also does is it allows a human being to actually do certain value adding processes that the machine can't do. So the repeated work that is required, the machine does, and the more caring, the experience related, the customer service part, all of that, the human actually interacts on. So huge amount of value getting created. The autonomous vehicles that you're talking about, quite a bit of it already exists in an aeroplane. The autopilot is a very simple example. On a given certain parameter, the plane flies on its own, right? You don't need somebody on the wheel. I've touched logistics, autonomous vehicles in factories, in our own factory. When I say our own, the Aditya Birla factories, in some of our factories, we've integrated so much automation that the human requirement because most of these processes are continuous processes. You don't need to stop the process and start again. And that huge amount of automation has come in, which has helped us reduce emissions by almost 30%, improve efficiency by almost 60%, and the throughput for my customer has increased more than 100%. So the huge amount of value getting created there, and this is just the beginning. As we start integrating neural networks, various industry 4, not just industry 4.0, industry 5.0 is going to come through, networks expansion coming in purely with the telecom expansion that's going to come with the 5G. A lot of this is going to completely transform the way you and I actually do work. So I mean, huge amount of value is there, but then it'll also be a reinvention. So for a marketeer and a person who takes products to market, it's going to be a completely different spin that would actually go in, because many of this in the couple of decades will actually become again basic very quickly, because it's technology replication. And once that happens, how you position and how you create value for the industry and for your stakeholders will be a different play altogether. There's another critical part that I was actually mooting. In fact, I'm part of the team at ABG on that. In the core team is how do we reinvent human capital in this scenario? Because human capital will be a different, would have to be redefined when many of these repetitive technology or repetitive processes would then get automated. Because it'll help me make money, so I'm sure my boss wants to do it. But then how does the human capital then be re-looked at? So that's a big question.
Very nice. So I'm afraid we've sort of run out of time, and I was just curious. Thank you for answering those questions so patiently. I was curious, what were you doing with the American Bureau of Shipping?
So when I came back from UK, Mr. Raghu Srinivas, he used to be the country manager for American Bureau of Shipping, and I joined them as head of sales and operations for India.
Oh, okay. So, right. I mean, much of their business is in the, as the name signifies, shipping industry.
Maybe the classification society, but correct. We are also a rule book, for all the risk. So I was part of the risk consulting part of it. More the standard rule book and the certification was a different business altogether. But ABS was the company that actually was given the risk analysis part of the rig, the British petroleum rig disaster. So we were the consultants to work on that. In fact, that was
the BP oil spill.
The BP oil spill.
The Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, and also probably they look at other structures like boilers and
yes,
other.
A lot of process safety, a lot of risk safety, all of that comes together as well.
Wonderful. So good, Mr. Nandakumar. Thank you so much for sort of enlightening us on value creation and how do we sort of derive value and the value chain. And I think you touched upon many areas like so differentiator, how do you differentiate your business and so on and so forth. Understanding a value chain itself is complicated, and yes. I think fascinating insights for our management students. And while I let you go, may I extend an invitation that you, when possible, come to the campus and you can speak directly to our students and our faculty and staff. And I'm sure all of us will have another enriching experience.
Looking
And
forward.
let's stay in touch. Where are you working from? Bengaluru?
No, I'm in Mumbai.
Oh, you're in Bombay. Okay, okay. So brilliant. Thank you so much then. And
Thank you.
you have a wonderful day and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Captain. And thank you, Arvind, as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.